Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a shell that we haven't seen in a good long while on the channel since last spring, I think. From what I remember, we tested these once and they did pretty decently, but for whatever reason we just never really tested them again after that. So when I saw them in the cabinet, I figured, well, we need to bring them out here and run them through a few different chokes and stuff and see what they actually can give us. But as for those shells, they are some of these, the Fiocchi Golden Turkey TSS loads, but these are the 410 3-inch 13/16 payload of TSS 9s, moving about 1100 feet per second. We've tested a decent amount of Fiocchi Golden Turkey and their few different variants of it, lead and TSS and stuff, and they've typically shown us some pretty decent results, and I believe these did pretty well last year when we tested them, so we'll see what they can do through today's choke. But for the setup we're going to run those through, I brought out my Mossberg 500 410. This one has a 24-inch barrel on it, and for the choke, I went with the Indian Creek. It's a 385 constriction. This choke has shown us a number of pretty solid results with good quality shells, but it isn't super forgiving if your shell is not good quality, so it can be a little picky sometimes. So we're going to see how it does with these Fiocchi shells. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. Turkey target's at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shell. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what the Fiocchi Golden Turkey 410 TSS loads can do through this Indian Creek 385. Should be a decent performer from what I remember, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, that shell gave us 1225 through the chrono. The boss claim is only 1100, so we were definitely moving on out a little bit for a 410 shell there. And from how that shell sounded, I believe that number. It was a little bit louder of a crack than what I typically hear from them. So definitely a little bit of an interesting velocity read here, but I don't think it's too far out of the realm of reality either. But how well did they actually pattern down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and we definitely had a little bit of an interesting pattern here. Now, do we have a dead bird? Yes, we absolutely do. There's a number of them right through the bottom of the neck there that would have absolutely gotten the job done, no question about it. And there's nowhere on that paper that he can move to and get through that pattern. So is it 40-yard capable? Yep, it absolutely is. But looking at the pattern here, it's a little bit on the goofy side. We have a decent looking core area right around that bird's head. There is a little bit of a void right behind his neck, which I really kind of don't like, but the rest of it isn't terrible. It's a decent 40-yard hunting pattern as far as the core goes to it. Now, as soon as we get outside of that turkey paper, we definitely have some weird stuff going on. There's a few little strings over there off the right. Down at the bottom, we have a number of little flyers down there. Off the left, we have this one big kind of diagonal string of pellets over there. And all the way up at the top corner, we have 2 pellets up there and several more up here in the top middle. So it's definitely not the most even spread of pellets by any means. If I bring you in and just show you what's on that turkey paper there, it's not bad at all, minus that one little void right over there behind his neck, which isn't too big of a deal, but the rest of the core is pretty even overall. It's just the rest of the pattern kind of did whatever it wanted to do. So maybe a little bit of a mixed bag on this one. Would I hunt with that combo? Yeah, sure. If it's what I had, absolutely. Have I seen much better 410 patterns than that? Yes, I definitely have, or at least way more even 410 patterns. There's no doubt about that. So I don't know on this one. Was it maybe a little bit too tight of a choke? Maybe a little bit too open of a choke? Like I kind of mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video, sometimes these Indian Creek chokes can be a little bit picky if the shell isn't loaded perfectly to really match well with those Indian Creek chokes. So is this a case of that happening? I don't know. Is this a terrible turkey pattern for 410? Definitely not. It's absolutely capable at 40 yards all day, any day. But I really don't know what is happening with all the little stringy and splotchy stuff around the edges. I just would prefer not to see that, because the last thing you want is to have a flyer that's 2 foot away from your turkey and happens to hit another one over there, even though it's not really even close to the bird you're aiming at. So it is a little bit of a mixed bag today. Either way, these Fiocchis still don't seem to be a terrible performing shell, so I think we can find the right choke combo for them and get them dialed in a little bit better than that. But definitely a little bit of a weird or strange looking pattern for today's test, that's for sure. And here's the wad from that shell. It is a 4-petal variety, which is a little bit different considering typically in a 410, a lot of times it's a 3-petal. And we definitely had 2 petals open farther than the others on the other side. But the big thing is we had multiple pellets stuck down in the bottom there, which is not at all what you really want to see. But that seemed to be a pretty common issue here recently with a lot of 410 shells in general, is having those pellets stuck down in the bottom of the wad. And for this pattern, those handful of pellets might have filled in a couple of those voids a little bit nicer. So not really ideal, not something I would like to see, ideally anyway, but it doesn't really look like the wad snagged on anything or did anything weird otherwise, so we should still be able to run these through some other chokes perfectly fine, and we'll see what happens as we continue to test them. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that pattern right there? It's not a terrible pattern by any means for a 410 turkey load at 40 yards. That's absolutely capable of getting the job done all day long without a doubt. But it is definitely a little bit on the goofy side as well. All those little strings and flyers around the edge is really not something I ideally want to see. The core definitely is pretty solid. We did have that one void right over behind his neck right there, but it's nothing too detrimental to the pattern. And considering most of our issues come around the edges here, I definitely think we can refine that still, get the right choke combo for him, and we'll actually have a pretty solid performing shell on our hands here, even though that isn't terrible at all right there. I wouldn't be scared to turkey hunt with that if that's what I could get my hands on, so definitely not bad overall, just not quite perfect either. But leave all your thoughts down in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Fiocchi Golden Turkey TSS loads, and if so, what kind of results have you seen? Would you hunt with that combination if it gave you that kind of pattern, or is it just a little bit too all over the place for you? And what other chokes would you like to see us run those shells through? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description down below if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.